And we are live. Welcome to the Rome Show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely, I'm excited. I love interviewing other podcasters. So, for the people on my podcast and my platform, can you tell them about your podcast, your brand, a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my podcast was born out of my own necessity of wanting to learn a little bit about life in general. It has a focus on mental health, but I figured like pretty much everything that we do in our life is connected to our mental health. So, we talk a little bit about a lot of things I wish I knew growing up. So, the name of my podcast is called Vida I Wish I Knew Then.
Super fire, super fire. And you said you recently started your podcast?
Yeah, I just launched in April, maybe the end of April. So I'm very brand new.
Super dope, super dope. Welcome to the podcasting world.
Thank you. It's definitely been very fun. And just, I feel like it's a great way to learn other people's experiences in another form of learning.
Right, definitely is. So how's it been going? Like how you like the podcasting life?
I love it. It's definitely I definitely have created another part-time job for myself. It's not about just hitting the record button, right? It requires a lot of planning to it, the whole editing, the whole inviting guests. So that's where I say I have created a part-time job for myself. But overall, it's very satisfying. I feel that it's a way to share some wealth of knowledge to others. I love YouTube. That's where I normally consume a lot of my information. But I'm a mom and I don't always have the time to sit down and watch videos. So podcast has been another form of me consuming information on the go, or even when I have to do my chores around the house.
Right. And being a mom and you already have a job and then like the podcasting. How do you balance all of that out?
Oh my god, it is definitely a challenge, but it's something that I enjoy. So I always try to make an effort to come up with a schedule. So just like you were to, have to go to school or you have to go to work, like I have to incorporate it into my weekly schedule. So on Sundays, usually my son, the youngest one, goes to his grandmother's house, and that's when I have the house to myself. I don't have a studio. My house is my studio, so it's when I do my recording.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. We all got the home studios. That's how you start off.
Definitely manifesting it one day. I will have it. But for now, you know, that's one of the other things that I love about podcasts, that it's not like you need all this expensive equipment or anything in particular to have this platform. So one of the perks of having a podcast.
Right. When I first started, I used my cell phone and I didn't even have a mic.
Yeah, and you know what, Rim? I think that that's another cool thing is to be able to. I feel that as you launch your podcast, it's sort of your timestamp, right? We went from I did some professional photography for my podcast, and I don't even have the microphone that I'm using right now. And I remember back then, I was like, "Oh my god, I don't want to use this microphone. It's not like your podcast microphone." But now that I have a nicer one, it's like I'm progressing. I'm making a difference with how I'm bettering myself in developing the podcast.
Right. Yeah, no, it takes time. That's it.
Yeah, it sure does.
How many episodes you have so far?
I am on double digits right now. I have recently launched the episode 10, not launched, but released episode 10 last week.
Fire. They say when podcasters quit, they usually quit after the fifth one. So
Oh, okay. You give me hope, bro.
yeah,
No, it's definitely been a great journey, and I don't see myself stopping. So hopefully we hit triple digits and maybe go even further.
yeah, just don't stop. Keep it going.
Yes.
What's some things you haven't done with your podcast that you want to do?
Um, I haven't done the video podcasting. I definitely want to take that route. And I do see myself doing that, but I want to be able to not necessarily master, but feel a little bit comfortable with what I'm doing right now to go to the next level. But it's definitely on my to-do list. It's just a little bit difficult for me because uh, I do have my children and I do work full time, so I have to really pick and choose my battles.
Right. Gets tough.
Yeah,
Just keep going. Go with all your ideas. It'll work out.
thank you, thank you.
If you had an opportunity to interview like any big podcaster, who would it be?
Oh my God. Um, Right now, I am really I open a new journey for myself. Recently, I've been talking a little bit about financial traumas. So if I could interview in this moment right now, I think I would interview Linda Garcia, who is a book writer, that's a Latina book writer who just released a book called Wealth Warrior. um, I just feel like she has key information for our BIPOC community that could make a difference. And I think that that is the main goal of my podcast, to be able to share information that not only inspires you, but that could be key information to help you improve your life in some kind of way.
Right. You got to keep it going. Maybe just reach out. Probably
Yeah.
can get her.
Yes. And another thing, obviously, like, big podcasters is always something great to have in the books for yourself. But I also like to look at not, people who are known, but not necessarily big stars, because I want to be able to interview individuals that are relatable to you and I, right? So if I were to interview Bill Gates, I mean, that would be amazing, right? That would be amazing. But when it comes to bringing a normal person, I think that those are the ones that have a lot more meaning.
Yeah. And you could relate more. They're not like way up there.
Exactly. So yeah, so that's I'm definitely excited to bring in all kinds of guests, but I think I'm gonna have a little mixture of everything.
Let me know if you got any openings. I'll be a guest on your podcast.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Definitely. Yeah, try to get on other podcasts too. That'll help your podcast.
Yes, that is another thing that I've been doing for myself. I've realized that it's very easy for me to reach out to people and say, "Hey, you want to be on my podcast?" But it's not as easy to be like, "Hey, do you need anybody to speak on your podcast?" So definitely working on that, and I do see the benefits of that as well.
Yeah. A lot of podcasts have like you can ask them, is there any way I could fill out an application to guest on your show? A lot of people have like links for that.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you for that. I'm gonna definitely be incorporating it to my to-do list when it comes to the podcast.
Absolutely. So it's just you, right? Doing everything.
It's usually me. I do have quite a few guests come in. So when it's just me, it's more of a storytelling. And whenever I bring in guests, I interview them with specific topics. Usually, I have brought in a salary negotiator. I have brought in someone that has two individuals that have shared their stories. One with sexual assault, another one with um, just not having mental health service, just the resources for mental health. And she's a news reporter. What else have I? I've had a little bit of everything. So all of them are tied into mental health.
Fire. That's the way to go.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, and your podcast is on all the platforms like iHeart, Apple Podcasts, all that.
Yes. So developing my podcast definitely took an army. I had my husband support me on the graphic design part of it, and then I have a 19-year-old that I want to consider myself to be very internet savvy, but I feel like the younger you are, the more you know. So he literally put me on all streaming platforms for podcasts.
That's dope. You got your own little team. That's dope.
Yes.
Um, what's some things that you want to do you haven't done yet with your podcast? As far as like business wise, maybe some partnerships and get some deals going.
Yeah, I definitely want to go the full-time route. If I can do, and those are the one of the things that I tell myself after each recording. Man, I wish I could do this full time because it's just so rewarding in so many different ways. I'm sharing information that I know that are it's supporting other people. So if I had a magic wand where I could do everything, obviously aside from having, a studio or whatnot, and having sponsors, being able to monetize, not necessarily for, I mean, who doesn't like money, right? So yes, definitely to monetize my podcast, but also to be able to make this a full-time job as a creator, as a podcaster, to be able to share information that I know that's going to be supporting other individuals. And who are some of those sponsors? I'm thinking about like someone like Cover California or mental health associations, anyone that could bring in tools or resources to my listeners.
Right. Fire. Um, since you're like, you're just getting started, just warming up, you got good energy. How do you, because I know when you first starting, there's a lot of things you might like get sidetracked on, stuff like that, like as far as like numbers, downloads, followings. How do you keep your energy high and how do you just keep going?
Yes. Uh, I think at the very beginning, it is a little nerve wracking as far as like looking at your analytics. Uh, One of the things is I try not to beat myself up too much with the numbers. I do utilize the numbers to my advantage in a way where, okay, last 3 weeks ago, I had a lot more listens on a specific episode more than the other one. So I'm using that as my advantage. Like maybe I should be bringing in more topics in this area, or maybe it needs a little bit more marketing. But it definitely can, your energy can come low when you notice that there is no traffic coming in, or even like when it comes to Instagram, like you'll post like a little clip about what your podcast was about that week, and it has like 10 likes or 3 likes, and you're like, oh, like you're putting all this energy onto it. But then I try to there's two things to it, Rome. I have to continuously remind myself my why. I'm not doing it for likes, I'm not doing it for numbers. And the other thing is, I might post something and it might have 2 likes on Instagram, but then a week later, I'll see a person and they're like, oh, yeah, I really like that episode where you were talking about this and that. I'm like, why
Right.
did you like my post? So it does, I have to remind myself that although I'm not getting the interaction, I am getting the listen, and that's all it matters.
Right. It's weird. It's like maybe like the people you personally know, they see it, but they don't like it, support it, whatever. But like other people far out, they'll see it.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I did talked about this a little bit with both my husband and one of my best friends, and I think she said something to me that stuck. It said, "Those that matter are the ones who are listening," and
Okay. That's a good one.
it's so true.
Right.
And I get DMs from strangers sometimes. Sometimes I know these individuals, but mostly strangers in my DMs that are referring back to a specific episode. And it's always rewarding. And I always tell myself, this is your why.
Right.
It is, your energy does go up and down. No lie on that. But again, you are human, and these kind of things are gonna get back to you. But we have the power to redirect ourselves.
Good advice. What's a few things you do on a day you feel off to turn yourself back on?
Uh, you know, this is the reason why I decided to do this podcast because I there's a lot of things I wish I knew then. This is the reason why it always goes back to the name of my podcast. Um, when I'm feeling down and I start self coaching myself, it's my motivation. Like, oh, this is what my audience needs to listen to. And usually, the way that I redirect myself is those words of wisdoms or those words of encouragement that I'm giving myself is what I tend to share. So my podcast or my Instagram page don't have a specific format as what I'm going to be talking about. So for example, I'm not going to say this whole week I'm going to talk about money. Next week I'm going to talk about this. No, it's all over the place because it's going along with my emotions. And this is why I say that my podcast is a form of healing for myself, and I'm healing along with my audience.
And that's like a blessing, because the podcast is helping me.
Yes, absolutely.
It helped me out too a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's almost like a thing where you express it's almost like some people are different, right? Some people have this practice where they write a letter or they write a note and they burn it or they trash or whatever the case, and for other people it's this. And I'm glad that like you said, it is a blessing.
Right. Thank God for podcasting.
Thank God for podcasting.
Well, I don't want to take too much of your time. I really appreciate you for coming on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here. It's
No
been a
problem.
pleasure.
Maybe we could do another episode soon.
Yeah. Count on me.
All right. Definitely. I'll keep in touch.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.